So both Salesforce and HubSpot had major conferences this past week at this year's Dreamforce, which is Salesforce's conference. They continued their recent trend of going all in on AI agents. So the biggest announcement, which we've talked about on previous episodes as it was being teased out before the event, was its Agent Force platform. So Salesforce bills Agent Force as a quote, customizable AI agent builder. And they kind of define an agent as a quote, proactive autonomous application that provides specialized always on support to employees or customers. They're equipped with the necessary business knowledge to execute tasks according to their specific role. Now, Agentforce, in addition to letting you build your own agents on top of Salesforce products, also has some pre-built agents to get you started. These include a service agent, an SDR agent, and even a sales coach agent. Now, there were tons and tons of other AI and product focused announcements at Dreamforce, but the company did highlight notably that Slack is basically turning into an AI agent hub. You're going to be able to interact with and guide AI agents to do work for you right from Slack. Salesforce is expanding its investment in AI through Salesforce Ventures to up to $1 billion. So they're increasing that dramatically. And the company is also offering what they call free hands-on AI courses and certifications through 2025. This is an investment they say has cost them more than $50 million to train people for, quote, the jobs of tomorrow. Now, not to be outdone, HubSpot's annual Inbound conference also delivered the AI goods. The biggest announcement here was HubSpot Breeze. This is what HubSpot is calling its, quote, AI engine. And it's basically a series of features, co-pilots, and agents built into its different hubs to improve how you work with HubSpot products. HubSpot says Breeze has over 80 AI-powered features across every HubSpot product, and these include Breeze AI agents and co-pilots that do things for you across social, content, prospecting, customer service, and more. For instance, there's a Breeze content agent that will automatically write case studies for you based on transcripts and notes that you give it. There is something called Breeze Intelligence, which is an AI-enhanced data set for enriching your CRM records. There are a bunch of AI features augmenting the marketing and content hubs, including, interestingly, a video remix feature, which repurposes existing videos into short clips and actually uses an integration with HeyGen to generate new video using AI. And there's the ability to use Breeze to quickly and easily understand everything about your data. It'll tell you everything from prospect intent to generate report summaries with AI to tell you more about user behavior on the site. Now, last but certainly not least, CTO and co-founder Dharmesh Shah, in his keynote at the event, talked all about something called Agent.ai. Now, this is a new website that Dharmesh and team have launched, and I'm just going to read straight from the website their description of kind of what this is and what's going on here. So they literally have a section on the site saying, what is this? And you click on it and it says, you might be wondering, what is this? Or maybe wondering, why is this? Let's start with what this is. Agent.ai is a project that I, Dharmesh, co-founder, CTO at HubSpot, have been working on for a while. It's a place where you can find and connect with AI agents. These agents can do all sorts of things. They can help you GSD, get stuff done. Right now, the agents are available are internally developed, but the plan is to open this up to the world. Now on to the why. Why am I doing this? Because I've been writing software for 30 plus years and never have I been more excited about the potential for AI, particularly AI agents. In a year or two, I think it'll be as common to build AI agents to solve customer problems as it is to build web apps today. And indeed, if you go to agent.ai right now, you can find all sorts of agents. The professional network for AI agents is what they bill it at the moment. And you basically can go hire an AI agent, which is using an AI agent to, for instance, generate images or memes, which are two of the available ones that you can hire on the website. So, Paul, that's kind of what's going on at Salesforce and HubSpot, but I like Dharmesh's final comment there as a transition into kind of the bigger second topic today, which is generally AI agents in the enterprise. Like with all this buzz around literally Salesforce is all in on agents. Seems like HubSpot is heavily in on agents. Where are we actually at today with AI agents? Like, are these all suddenly ready to scale in the enterprise? Like, is there real value here yet?
Yeah, so I found myself asking these same questions last week. So interestingly, I think on the podcast last week, we touched on this idea that agents are sort of taking on different definitions, that it's not really clear what exactly everyone's talking about. Because if we go back, Mike, to episode 87, the AI timeline, where I laid out that AI agents were going to take off like 2025 to 2027, um, there was a certain kind of agent we were thinking about and we were talking about, and that was kind of more the generally capable personal agent. So, just to recap, like in that timeline, what I said was agents that can take action in 2025 are happening, but they're mostly experimentations and demonstrations. And yet we have Salesforce and HubSpot touting that these things are everywhere and they're ready to go.
Right.
Um, at the time, what I said was lots of manual work to get the agents to function reliably, plus lots of human oversight. So these aren't like autonomous agents, is what my belief was. And again, keep in mind, we recorded episode 87 in March of this year. So this was me looking out ahead and saying, here's what I think is going to happen in 2024. Um, and then I basically said that companies generally won't be willing to give up the data and privacy needed to get these benefits. So while a lot of small, mid-sized businesses may jump on the agent train, it's going to be a lot of enterprises that are going to say, no way, like it needs access to all this data that we're not going to give it access to. Now that might not happen within like a Salesforce environment if you already trust Salesforce and it has access to the data for like a customer service use case or a sales use case, then you may be willing to use those agents to do those kinds of things. And then I said, starting in 2025, AI can now take actions more reliably with less human oversight. And then it starts to take off in selected domains and verticals initially, and then more generally over time. Early instances of full autonomy start to emerge in 2025, meaning you give it a goal and it goes and does the thing for you with no human oversight. And then disruption to knowledge work starts to become more tangible and measurable. Now, HubSpot, Salesforce, Google, Microsoft, none of them are going to talk about these agents being replacements to workers. They're all going to talk about them being unlocks and, enhancements and augmentations. They all have to say that. So let's get one thing clear, like agents will replace people. This is regardless of the marketing messaging that
Mhm.
people use, um, it will augment them. It will enhance people's jobs. There will be wonderful things that come from these agents, but they'll take jobs too. Like it is an inevitable outcome. And that'll likely start happening at some time in 2025. We've already heard the story of Klarna, their AI agent basically customer service agent doing the work of 700 reps, like that's just straight up they need fewer people doing the work. So that's kind of like how we set the stage timeline wise. So I think what we're seeing with HubSpot and Salesforce and others is this very early version of these very specifically tuned agents designed to do very specific things. They're not generally capable of doing many things. They're trained to be a sales service rep bot or a agent bot or a coding bot or things like that or service rep bot. Um, so they're trained to do these things. But now let's go back to OpenAI's levels of AI. We talked about
Mm.
this on recent podcasts. So level one is chatbots, which is what we've had with ChatGPT. Level two is reasoners, what in theory O1 gives us, their new model that does reasoning. And we talked about last episode. It's a very early version of it. Like we're at like the GPT-1, GPT-2 stage of reasoning capability, but probably going to accelerate pretty fast. Level three for OpenAI is agents, systems that can take actions. Then level four is innovators, and then level five is organization. So we're very much in this level two to level three range for what OpenAI considers the levels of AI.
Mm.
Um, Related to OpenAI, so we go back to episode 83 of the podcast, February 13th of this year, and we recapped their World of Bits paper. So back in 2017, so OpenAI has been working on agents since their foundation, since forming in 2015, 16. So in that paper, Andres Karpathy, whose name you hear a lot on the podcast, led a team that looked into this building these agents that could do things, that could take actions like booking flights and completing forms by simulating the use of a keyboard and mouse, where it could go
Mm.
in and do all these general tasks. And their conclusion at the time was it just wasn't ready yet. But then in 2022, he did an interview with Lex Friedman and said, we think we might be there. We think that language was the unlock by building models, AI models that could understand and generate human language. We think we now can teach these agents how to do things. And so that kind of led me to yesterday. So Sunday, September 22nd, I'm listening to a podcast with Brett Taylor on the No Priors podcast. And so if you don't know who Brett Taylor is, he is the co-founder of Sierra. Sierra Works, I think is the name of the company. Um, but more importantly, he is he was the co-CEO of Salesforce prior to this, and prior to Salesforce, he had founded Quip, and he was the chief technology officer for Facebook. And he spent the early parts of his career at Google, where he co-created Google Maps. But maybe the most important, he is on the OpenAI board. He is the
Mm.
surviving member of the changeover of the OpenAI board. His co-founder at Sierra is Clay Baver, who we've never talked about on the podcast before. I actually haven't followed Clay prior to this, but he was at Google for 18 years. Recently led Google Labs. He started and led their Google AI VR AR VR effort, Project Starline, and Google Lens. Interestingly enough, and he led the product and design teams for Google Workspace. So all this is to say is Clay and Brett are highly connected to what is going on in this world and where these models can go. And so interestingly enough, I had flagged this episode to listen to, not knowing we were like it was about agents and that we were going to be talking about agents the next day. But this episode with Brett, this interview, literally starts off with, do agents work today? So they dive right in because his company Sierra builds company agents.
Mhm.
So I thought Brett, who again is on the board at OpenAI, building a agent company on top of OpenAI's technology, has probably more insight than anyone outside of Sam Altman into the strategy of what they're building and where it's going. I think he's the chairman of the board. Maybe you could double check that, Mike, but
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Brett is the main guy. So they ask him straight up, like, do agents work today? And how do you define them? And so again, this is the big sticking point to me right now is like, what are we talking about when we talk about agents? So he said the agents mean something different in academia than I think they mean in industry right now. I think both definitions are important. Just starting what I view as the classic academic definition is an agentic system is one where software can reason and take action autonomously, and it comes from the word agency. So agency, again, if people aren't familiar with kind of the technical side of this, is like if we think about agency in humans, our agency is our ability to act independently, to make decisions, to influence the environment within which we live. So we have control of our choices and we have responsibility for the outcomes of those choices. So the concern in AI, or in some cases, the pursuit in AI, is to give the AI agency, to give the AI the ability to make its own choices, to influence its outcomes, to influence its environment. And that is the idea of AI agents is to give the AI agency, to give it the ability to take actions and have responsibility for the outcomes of those actions. So he then talks about there being three sort of categories of agents that we're working on or that are kind of like in the world today. And this then leads back to what exactly does Salesforce have? What does HubSpot have? What's the connection there? So we have personal agents, which is kind of what we talk about with Apple Intelligence on your phone. This kind of general agent that can go and do a bunch of things within your environment, within your phone. Now, that may end up being like 50 agents working in symphony together that we don't see. We just see the one main agent, but there may be all these other agents working together behind the scenes. So personal agents are kind of more general intelligence. It's what Google's probably working on with some of their bigger initiatives. Um, Maybe Microsoft, certainly OpenAI is what they've been pursuing all these years. Then there's persona-based agents, which are kind of trained to do a specific thing. So, like Harvey, the company that's building a legal AI agent,
Right.
they're trying to do like these persona-based agents. And then there's company agents that sort of represent your brand. And so Brett, I really recommend people go listen to the whole podcast. Brett does a great job of just breaking down where we're at. But what he basically said is with personal agents, we're kind of like earliest in that. Like this idea of building these general agents that can go and like let's say I have a single general agent living within Google, where Google workspace customers. If I had a single agent that learned to manage my inbox, learned to handle my schedule, learned to do all these things, that would be like a personal general agent that I entrusted to like learn everything about me, have access to all of my data, all of my systems. That's what he's saying is the earliest. The people who are going to build that are likely going to be Google, OpenAI, Microsoft. I don't even know. I can't imagine. Like Salesforce doesn't have access to enough data. Like you need a cloud platform that has access to basically everything.
Mm,
Apple, those are the companies that are going to build those. The persona based agents is probably more of what you're going to interact with, more of what we're seeing Salesforce and HubSpot building, and that is agents to do specific things. These are easier to emerge sooner because they're confined in their goals and the data they need to have access to. So if I want to do an email agent that's going to help me develop and send emails in HubSpot, I maybe build or go to agent.ai and I find one, or I just go right within HubSpot. It doesn't have access to my personal Gmail calendar, or Google Calendar doesn't have access to my Gmail. It doesn't have access to anything else. It just has access to the email capabilities it needs to help me do email. Customer service persona agent, same deal. It has access to CRM data, it has access to call transcripts, whatever it needs to do customer support. So he talks a lot about that, and then he gets into this idea of these company agents, and he literally says in 2025, existing digitally will probably mean having a branded AI agent that your customers can interact with to do everything that they can do with your website. Talk about your products and services, do e-commerce, do customer service. So that's what his company Sierra is building on top of, I assume, OpenAI's technology, and not just the tech we see today, but he's probably has access to the tech that the rest of us will see tomorrow, and he's building these capabilities on top of that. Um, he gets into like retrieval augmented generation and how that's not enough. How like actually you have to take a goals and guardrails approach, which I thought was kind of a fascinating way to understand it. Um, so in his world, those are the 3 ways he thinks about agents, but at the end of the day, I think what we kind of have is what we've always had with AI. You have narrow intelligence, narrow agents, and then you have general intelligence and general agents. What we will all interact with over the next 1 to 2 years is far more likely narrow.
mm,
They're gonna be the persona-based agents trained to do specific things. That's what you're gonna build and use in agent.ai and HubSpot. It's what you're gonna build and use in Salesforce. It's what you're gonna build and use in Microsoft, who had an announcement last week, about their updates to Copilot and changes they're making there. They said, let's see, Copilot agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot. We'll put a link to this. Microsoft said whether you're a user, developer, IT professional, Microsoft Copilot Studio offers a comprehensive platform for creating, managing, and deploying Copilot agents. The 2 new things they announced was Copilot agents built in Copilot Studio can now be published directly into Microsoft 365 Copilot, meaning you can share them with your coworkers, I assume. And they're unveiling Copilot Studio experience that empowers users of any skill level to create Copilot agents within SharePoint and Microsoft. And the examples they gave was an IT help desk agent, a device refresh agent, a lead gen agent, a project tracker agent. You get the point. Whatever you do task wise, they're going to build agents for it. Now, if we rewind back to episode 92, in April 16th of this year, that was Mike when we talked about Google Cloud Next conference.
right.
Sundar Pichai, Demis Hassabis on stage talking about what? AI agents. So they define them as intelligent entities that take actions to achieve goals. And they specifically talked about the idea of agents connecting with other agents. They introduced Vertex AI, Vertex AI Agent Builder. They talked about them as employee agents that, again, we're going to say they're going to be your coworkers. In many cases, they may be. You may build an org chart that actually infuses AI agents as part of that org chart. You may also replace people with these things, is kind of like the unspoken word. Um, at the time, they showed examples of customer agents, employee agents, creative agents, data agents, code agents, and security agents. Those were their broad 6 categories. And then you
Mm,
would like branch off from within there. So the point of all of this is you are going to be hearing a ton about AI agents. We are going to enter this phase where everyone's going to have slightly different definitions of what they are. They're going to talk about them as additions to, augmentations to what humans are capable, which is not lying. They are, but by this time next year, I can almost promise you we are going to have podcast episodes talking about agents as replacements to workers. Like
Mm,
it is an inevitable outcome. Um, so they're going to be awesome. They're going to make our lives more efficient, more productive. You're going to love using these things. They're going to start getting really reliable next year, especially the more narrow they are, the better that you train them, the more data they have. But I will say, and kind of wrap up here, Mike, in case if you have any thoughts, I think while I'm highly confident they will replace people, I'm also highly confident people will have new or evolved jobs training
mhm,
and managing these agents.
right.
Because who better to build them and to know how they're performing and to improve them than the people who have domain expertise and knowledge in that space. And there's a chance that maybe that offsets it. Like maybe agents become such a massive thing within organizations and it just like maybe it just levels up productivity so much in companies that it offsets job loss. I don't know. Like maybe that happens and I hope it does. But the reality is we'll need fewer people doing existing work. If we can create enough new work and increase productivity enough with these things, then by this time next year, people listen to the show, like there may be people, some of you who are AI agent managers and
Mm,
AI agent builders. And,
mm.
if I was running an agency right now, I would be racing to figure out how to build AI agents for clients because I think there's an enormous opportunity for the next, who knows, 5, 10 years to be playing in this space. So I get that that's probably a lot of information, but I think it's really critical that people have this foundation of what are we talking about when we're talking about agents? Where are we actually with them?
Right.
And why is it the only thing all these tech companies are talking about right now?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation is really to identify first, and it sounds like the answer is yes. Can agents, at least in some areas, do certain tasks autonomously? And we are increasingly getting to a world where that's the case. Now, like you mentioned, there's lots of nuance, there's lots of reliability issues. But if that world comes to pass, comes back to that idea we always talk about, a job is a bundle of tasks,
Yes.
right? So you unbundle a job into all these different tasks. Suddenly it's not just you using AI to do the task. Agents may very well do many of those tasks, which is going to extrapolate those effects however you will. I mean, that will be disruptive.
Yes, human built agents doing human tasks with human oversight is kind of where we are in very specific areas and domains. And that's kind of what's being built today.
And I mean, and this could be a whole other podcast episode, but it'd be worth maybe in a future episode us exploring what does that mean for hiring? Because the skill set of running a team of agents or building them is very different than like being a great copywriter, for instance, or something like that.
Yeah, and you're not gonna be need to be highly technical to build these things.
Right.
So, like, right now, I haven't obviously gone into Agent Force, which I don't even know if Agent Force is a platform or, like, I don't still don't know what exactly Agent Force is. I think it's just more of a brand overarching, but
Yeah.
anyway, like, I haven't tried to go in and build one there. Vertex AI Agent Studio, I did back when it was first introduced, and while they say it's no code, you need technical
Yeah.
capabilities to play in there. But I do think that in the next year or so, we're largely going to get to a no code environment, kind of like we've talked about with our custom GPTs, Mike. Like
GPTs. Yeah.
I built 3 custom GPTs with zero knowledge of how to code.
Right.
I envisioned that being more realistic. So I think that while today most agents, quote unquote, that are built by people with a programming background, I could see within 12 months the vast majority of agents being built are by the average knowledge worker with no coding ability. Like I really think we are racing toward a very low code, no code future where most instances is someone with domain expertise who understands the process and
Mm.
the steps that you have to go through that just builds an agent to assist them in doing the work or to replace, 50, 80, 90% of the tasks that are involved in doing something.
That aspect of it is really exciting to me, despite the uncertainty. Is like, I think it's a good reminder, regardless of how smart the engineers are out there. For you non-engineers, that doesn't mean they know anything about how to do your job.
Yeah.
You have a better idea already using your domain expertise about what product or agent or system to build to achieve what you do or help you with what you do better than anybody else. The thing we've just lacked is the ability to do it
Right.
until
And
now.
which you and I have talked about is like a really exciting thing. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
the ability for me to sit down and build problems GPT as an example without
Mhm.
having to call up a developer or find somebody that I trusted to do it, without having to go through and do all the technical sides of the data. That was very empowering. Like that was a wonderful feeling to just take some knowledge and to put it into a tool. And so I do think like while I am, I talk about the impact on jobs. I do believe there's this like incredible side to this that it's going to empower people to build things that they just couldn't have done before. And that's going to be awesome for a lot of people.